He asked Rona to come along, making her nervous. They walked together. Nox knew he needed to survive. He had felt how scary death was and was determined to avoid it. He knew he had to adjust to this new world quickly. Lost in thought, he realized he still had a chance. With 27 previous playthroughs, he possessed loads of knowledge about the game's secret stuff. The game Inner Lunatic was super popular all over the world. It had a really cool story with angels, demons, and an empire. But what made Inner Lunatic really special was how you could make your character unique. You could play the game in different ways. Some traits, like ordinary and talented, could be picked more than once. But the super awesome genius traits were usually just one per player. But guess what? He had 2 genius traits. Something really rare. In Inner Lunatic, there was a thing called trait penalties. By figuring out the game's rules, Nox managed to get 2 genius traits. The first one was swordsmanship and combat genius. That meant he was incredibly good with a sword and could do all sorts of fancy moves. The second trait, mana sensitivity genius, let him use magic better. He could cast spells like a real pro. Nox thought about the other cool traits he could use. With insight, he could check out other characters' stats. Master of acting would let him be great in any situation. That would be super helpful right now. Steel mentality was awesome too. It meant he could stay strong and focused during battles. But there were some not so great traits he had to deal with. Like terminally ill, it sounded serious. He also had Curse of the Weak, frequent sickness, cold hands and feet, and possession. Cold hands and feet made it hard for him in icy places. Frequent sickness meant he might pass out sometimes. Nox had a lot to think about. He knew he had to face all the challenges coming his way, one by one. Looking at Nox, Rona couldn't believe her eyes. Was he really going to the practice hall? She watched him walking toward the gate, wondering what he was up to. Nox pushed open the gate, determined to address the first obstacle, the Curse of the Weak. This curse afflicted users from birth. It reduced the growth rate by half and made the users twice as susceptible to enemy debuffs. As Nox continued his sword practice, a sense of despair washed over him. Regardless of how much he pondered the situation, he could only arrive at one conclusion. He was doomed. Exhausted and lying on the ground, Nox struggled to catch his breath. The realization that he couldn't even swing the sword more than 10 times hit him hard. He lamented the immense difficulty imposed by the Curse of the Weak. Looking around, Nox found solace in the availability of numerous weapons. This abundance could be attributed to the Reinhardt family's origins, which centered around the sword. Known as the High House of the Blade and Darkness, the Reinhardt family had earned this title due to their mastery of imbuing attribute magic into their dark blades, allowing them to slash through their enemies with great proficiency. All of this was made possible by the legendary Commander's Blade, also referred to as the Tyrannical Blade of Darkness. This ancestral sword had been passed down through generations of family heads, continuing the tradition and legacy of the Reinhardt family. Nox contemplated the benefits of being part of a noble family, excluding the swordsmanship. One of the greatest advantages was the abundance of money. With a delighted expression, he expressed his admiration for the wealth possessed by the Reinhardt family. As one of the prominent noble families in the story, their wealth was so substantial that even their seemingly useless young son, Nox, had enough money to sustain a life without ever having to work. Nox believed that his father Teo likely didn't care much about how wisely he managed his finances. After all, Nox didn't possess that kind of character. He was the youngest son of a noble family, and his character archetype was clear. With his legs trembling, Nox managed to stand up. He recalled Rona's fearful behavior and her plea not to involve her in anything strange. A few minutes earlier, Rona had brought a wooden sword and a towel and informed Nox that they were ready for him. However, she couldn't help but wonder if he truly intended to engage in exercise. Nox realized that there was no one around and motioned for Rona to come closer. Rona displayed a frightened demeanor, questioned his intentions, and expressed concern that he might hit her. Nox, caught up in his frustration, exclaimed and asked her, what was she talking about? He then grasped Rona's ear, pulling her closer, and whispered something in her ear. After hearing Nox, Rona shouted in surprise, questioning Nox's plans. She looked at him, expressing her disbelief that his ideas were merely garbage. However, Nox commanded her to figure it out, and sharply told her to be quiet. Rona replied with a trembling voice, and acknowledged his request. As Rona left to retrieve the requested items, she couldn't help but think to herself that young Master hadn't changed a bit. Meanwhile, Nox contemplated the time it would take for Rona to complete her task, hoping that everything would be ready by tomorrow. He poured himself some tea, pondering a solution to his curse and the need to increase his stamina. Suddenly a voice interrupted his thoughts. It was the head butler, Rodwell de Ernark. Knox was taken aback as he recognized Rodwell, who held a significant position as one of the main managers of the Reinharfer estate. Rodwell served as an advisor to Knox's father, Theo von Reinharfer, who was also the family head. Knox realized that dealing with Rodwell wouldn't be as straightforward as with others, as he held a position of authority within the family. Knox pondered the encounter, considering it a potentially significant challenge. He wondered if Rodwell had noticed something unusual happening, and pondered his own means to handle the situation. Knox activated his positive trait of Master of Acting and questioned Rodwell's presence, saying that the head butler should be serving the family head. Head butler Rodwell informed Knox that he had received orders to share some news with him. Knox curiously inquired about the nature of the news. Head butler revealed that Knox was instructed to participate in tonight's dinner. Knox was unfamiliar with the family and the situation, hesitated at the idea of having dinner with the family head. He contemplated the request, realizing his lack of knowledge about the family dynamics. Knox responded to head butler, expressing his reluctance to attend the dinner. Head butler internally pondered about the master's intentions behind ordering young Master Knox to participate in the dinner. Head butler then reported that the lady of the Stilliner family had arrived and was seeking night training. Knox could feel his heart pounding as his father's words echoed in his mind. The thought of angering the family head made him uneasy. He let out a heavy sigh, understanding the weight of the situation. Reluctantly, he agreed to attend the dinner. The head butler's watchful gaze didn't go unnoticed by Knox. There was something different about that day, and it wasn't just the formal attire. Knox felt a hint of defensiveness rise within him when the head butler's eyes seemed to question him. Is there something you want to say?" Knox asked, his tone slightly edgy. The head butler's voice held a touch of concern as he addressed Knox's unusual behaviour. Knox had never been one to show interest in combat training or wielding a blade. The head butler's inquiry about his sudden decision to visit the practice hall alone made Knox's jaw tense. "Why do you care?" Knox replied with a sternness that surprised even himself. "My actions are my own. I'll decide what I want to do." The head butler's apologetic words caught Knox off guard. He hadn't expected the butler to backtrack. As Knox walked away, he could feel the weight of the head butler's gaze on his back. It was clear that the encounter had left the head butler with unanswered questions. Inside his room, Knox closed the door behind him, leaning against it to catch his breath. The confrontation had been unexpected, and he was relieved that the possession hadn't taken over. His mind shifted to the mention of the young lady from the Styliner family. Why was she here? What connection did she have to his family? Amid the dinner, Knox's discomfort grew as he became the target of mockery from the twin brothers, Hartz and Alan. Their words stung, but Knox remained composed. He knew he hadn't done anything to deserve their scorn. Alan's disbelief and Hartz's questioning tone only fueled his determination to stay calm. Just as the tension reached its peak, Theo von Reinharfer, Knox's father and the family head, entered the room. Knox's posture straightened instinctively as he acknowledged his father's presence. He understood his role within the family hierarchy. But then, a new figure entered the scene, capturing everyone's attention. A girl with fiery red hair introduced herself as Thalia von Stilliner. As Knox gazed across the room at Thalia, his thoughts swirled. In the game Inner Lunatic, she played the hero, the one who would stand against the future villain, Knox himself. He knew that down the line, it would be Thalia who would drive a sword into his chest. At the table, Theo acknowledged Knox's presence and suggested moving forward with the meal. During the feast, Knox noticed Hartz and Alan deeply engrossed in a conversation. It seemed they were discussing something important. Eventually, Hartz proposed a decision to Theo. It was about who should be the next person to enter Eldine Academy, a place of great importance in the game's plot. Theo agreed that it was time to choose. In the world of Inner Lunatic, Eldine Academy was where battles were fought and challenges were conquered. For Knox, attending the academy was vital. It meant gaining allies and following the story's path. But there was a catch. Theo revealed that each family could send only 3 members to the academy, a rule to keep the nobles' power in check. 2 slots were already taken by Theo's first and second sons, leaving just 1 spot. Knox pondered how he could secure that final ticket before worrying about alliances. He gathered his thoughts and spoke up. Knox guessed that the family head was planning a fight among the brothers to decide who would get that last academy spot. The unexpected response surprised Theo, who confirmed Knox's hunch. The duel would take place in the practice hall a month later, following family tradition. Hart seized the moment to mock Knox, advising him to keep quiet to avoid embarrassment. Alan chimed in, belittling Knox's lack of sword skills, claiming he stood no chance. Knox remained composed, sipping his wine. He responded calmly, saying they could discuss it once he emerged victorious. Alan scoffed at Knox's confidence, expressing disbelief in his abilities. Meanwhile, Knox maintained his focus and understood that the upcoming duel was another trial he needed to face in order to secure the entrance ticket. He refused to be swayed by the taunts and insults directed at him. Confident in his own abilities, Knox looked ahead and boldly declared that he would be the one to attend Eldine Academy. This surprised the family head, while it further infuriated Hartz and Alan. Thalia, the young lady from the Stilliner family, chuckled at Knox's declaration and commented on his confidence. Knox glanced at her but internally felt a sense of unease, realizing that he might have drawn the attention of someone he shouldn't have. What will happen next? Find out next time by staying tuned for our future recaps. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more great recaps.